first question. Will you ever join Tinder? Give a reason for your answer.
All right, I'm guessing this is for me and Ralph because we're not single.
Why are you assuming?
Sorry. Okay, I guess it's for me
But-
then
but
because I'm
she's-
single.
She's potentially right.
But yeah,
Potentially.
you start. Would you join Tinder?
Would I join Tinder? Not really, but I've been on the almost settings. Hey, bro, this life gets lonely sometimes, and you're like,
I'm sorry, man.
Hey, you want the cheat code that everyone's on to meet people quick steps. But I'm more of a personal person, like meeting you in person and everything. Yeah, that's what does it for me.
Yeah, and I always feel people can pretend on social media. Everyone is posting like the best version of themselves. It's just creepy, man. I don't know. I really judge people who join social media to find love. That's just my personal prejudice. I understand some people have found genuine relationships, but yeah, I don't. I know there's Christian apps as well for
relationships.
yeah, for relationships.
Yep.
I've had people talk about. Have I thought about joining? No,
Ever.
Why?
Ever.
no. I'm also quite old. I don't think
No,
I'm
you're
I'm
looking
not modern enough to be like I'm gonna find love on social media.
Is
I don't
that-
even do DMs on Instagram. I don't get that.
So you're saying people slide into your DMs, but you don't.
Because if a stranger sends you a message, I'm not going to respond
Why not?
because it's strange. I'm just saying I'm old. That's just saying I'm old.
You're looking for a godly man. You'll find them in the Christian dating apps. So why haven't you joined the Christian dating apps?
I would much rather find them in church.
Sorry.
But yeah, that's my answer. I personally, for you guys, if you were
Yeah.
single,
What
would you
are your
join?
thoughts on Tinder? Like basically.
I have seen a number of creepy people, and I
Creepy or
prefer
pretty?
creepy, particularly creepy, and because I have had conversations with people who seem quite different offline and online, I prefer not to.
Also, just a random story that you said that. This is a long time ago, by the way.
She's about to change her statement to never be on Tinder.
No, it wasn't Tinder, but I had almost like a relationship with a guy that was majorly like on phone for it was long distance for like 2 years. But when we actually met, it was the most boring date. Oh my gosh, I am so sorry if he's watching this, but seriously, like it was so bad. And that's what I'm saying. People can be so different on social media versus who they are in person, because then you have an idea. You build up like this image of them in your head, and then when you finally meet them, it's like,
Okay.
wow.
But honestly, even me as a fellow Mandem, like previously when I was all about my SMS game was on point,
Right.
bro. Hey,
When we used to get the 10 bobs free.
bro, hey, you buy that whole SMS package and you're there throwing lines, nini. But then I couldn't speak to girls in person. I used to freeze. I used to overthink. I used to get stuck.
Yeah.
And like once I started transitioning to like actually doing the real thing, you realize the other thing was just worthless, man.
Yeah.
It's a facade, bro.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You have time to curate an answer that's like perfect.
It's true.
You can correct everything that you have to say until you're satisfied. When you're send, it's
Can Google quotes?
Yes.
Yeah, some very nice quotes.
You borrow game. You basically borrow game. Yeah.
So, for me to answer that question, when I was single, Tinder had thought about it, but it's creepy. Found it also creepy. So I realized that it's not for me.
But
Yeah.
you know, like from the aspect of, let's say, you're working, you're constantly on the page of, building, because as we're told, you need an amount of spread to entertain females out here in the streets. So you're there building yourself, building your work career, Nini. You don't really have time to be in these social settings of engaging with females. You can't stop a random female in town, bro. How? Where?
You can.
In town.
Yes.
In town.
Yes.
You'll stop. You'll stand and entertain a dude in town randomly, especially now.
It depends on how you stop someone.
Yeah.
No, I understand if you're having an event, let's say like here, when we're having the gathering and everything, that's cool. That's a clue. But you're telling me in town in public, you'll be open to a dude like randomly tapping your shoulder, you'll stand.
Not if it's like archives, like, you know, like not if it's like somewhere that's like full of people.
Town
But
is full of people.
no, but there's
everywhere.
places in town. So for example, if you're, is it called Uptown? Like there's places where it's like relatively few people. If someone stops you, you would stop because they might need help, firstly. Or if you stop me to come, well, to be fair, you might be right that I don't know that I'd
See,
stop in
but it
town
can work.
specifically, but it can work.
What if in a matatu?
Huh?
What
In a
if it-
matatu is okay. That's what I'm saying. It's an enclosed environment, but like such settings, it's difficult. They're not enough. Like in town, you can't do that. That's my point. So like for such people who are busy on the grind, like for them, you somewhat understand that the only time I have to even try and socialize, that's when I'm at home. So I'm going to go on this dating app, post my, you know, my. the
So what
photos
makes it safer to stop on social media and not in person?
to
Stop on social media and not in person.
stop?
Yes.
What do you mean
and,
stop?
And give them the attention.
No, social media is just that's the time they have. That's my point.
Ah.
Yeah, because during the day they're just working, constantly working. They don't have time to.
Do you know
Yeah.
what I think social media does? It makes dating convenient.
It does.
But it's but
That's
it's
the-
not.
that's
It
like that's
shouldn't
the
be.
job of social. That's literally the job
But
of
it
social
shouldn't
media.
be. Dating is messy. Like you're supposed to do the daunting thing of stopping a person in town because you like them that much, as opposed to you scroll past a picture of like 50 girls and then you're like, okay, this is the
I'm not saying it's the best, but I'm telling you it serves a purpose. Convenient wise, it does serve a purpose.
But is the convenience then sustainable for after?
For
Like, because like then you meet them and then the messiness starts.
The dating won't be on social media.
true, but you met on social media. That's the point.
So what we're saying is, I feel like it sets you up for failure in the long term. Like I'm sure there's exceptions, there's relationships that really work, but then I think for the majority, it's just it doesn't
Like
make sense.
social
I
media
agree.
made
Personally, I
dating-
wouldn't advocate for it, but it does serve a convenience. That's just my point.
So social media made dating different or worse in terms of you have a medium where you're hiding behind compared to one-on-one from the start.
Yeah, I think it's made it worse and better to some regard.
No.
Because you're able to talk to a person like the whole day if you want to, but but whether that conversation is like real is a different. Yeah.
Tunaongea siku mzima, tunaongea nini bana?
Stop acting like you haven't done it, Rob.
Bro, honestly, like,
If you've been in love with a person, like the first few, like you cannot get enough of that person.
bro, I won't lie. Currently, Mandem is single. One of the few things that I don't comprehend is speaking to someone the whole day. The whole day.
I don't comprehend it as well, but I've done it before.
The whole day.
Yep.
When you're in love.
No,
Yeah. Don't deny it.
24 hours, madam.
but yeah.
As two married people, I want to assume that before you are married, you are practicing sexual purity. So my question would be, was it worth the wait?
So let me just put it out there that yes, we were practicing sexual purity, but it wasn't the easiest journey of it all. The question about whether it was worth it, it became such a difficult transition for me as a person, because now trying to get to that place where this is something that I have known constantly is not what I should be doing, and getting to a place where you now figure, boom, this is our honeymoon day one, feel free. It was not quite an easy transition, but trust me, it was worth it.
I appreciate that, man. I appreciate that. I haven't had such an honest answer about that in a while. Like the aspect of it, like being difficult to transition into. Hey.
Okay, for my case, when we were dating, we were very intentional. We had actually talked about it from day one, about how do we remain pure and the waiting period. So the waiting period, you can't say we're going to wait for 2-3 years, depending on when you set the day for your wedding. So we decided, as long as it takes, we'll have to wait. Then the other thing was accountability. So at that time, when I was dating with my wife, a close friend of mine was also dating, and we kept each other accountable. So those days you will feel like what Pastor Noella said. You feel like, man, this is hard. This is hard. So I'll call him and we'll actually talk about it. I'll call my friend, be like, dude, this time around, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'll make it. I'm not sure if I'll make it. So, but we kept the promise of us waiting till when we get married with my wife, and it was worth the wait. Then now, because you've waited for this long, now you are, let me say, allowed. Now you have the permission to enjoy the fruits of marriage. The first night I was so confused. I'll say that. It was something very, I won't share the details. It was
Feel free, sir.
Be smart.
yeah, I'm calculating my words well. So I'll say it was very confusing for me, exciting and confusing. So, but one thing during pre and now being married, we were told something you learn as you go on. So the beauty is you continue learning now, being with someone.
I have a question.
I have a question as
I
well.
knew it.
Rock, paper, scissors. Who goes first?
I did it way before. Okay. On 3 or after 3?
On 3. 1, 2. Okay.
Sorry, 3. So my question is, what is practicing purity? Because both of you have said that you are practicing purity, but what is that?
You have to go first.
Okay. So the very initial conversation that we had, we sat down with one of my pastors, and he had to categorically ask us if we feel that we are sexually attracted to each other, because that has to check, honestly. And so with that confirmation, now he sat us down and helped us now sort of figure out boundaries that would help us in a space of not crossing those boundaries to get to a place where it becomes like, you see, when there's an avalanche, when one stone falls, everything comes tumbling down. So it was because I had been only in one previous relationship that downright messed up. And so I was aware before that. And he had been in prior relationships where he had also been in a space of struggling boundaries, really. So at this point in time, we decided to be a lot more accountable to people who we would be open to. And so when we were sitting down and discussing these boundaries, it was not necessarily about when it gets to that point of sexual intercourse is our boundary. We pushed the boundaries a lot further behind, that we would not be in a space where, because being in one room together for a long period of time, that was out of question for us. That was one of the things, so that we don't find ourselves in a space of temptation, because it can get a lot difficult, a lot heated. In terms of physical touch, what does that mean for you? Because I have been there before, and I know that if you touch me in this particular way, I know. And even when coming from a space of having read the Bible and hearing that, like Ephesians 5:3, I think, talks about there being no hint of any form of sexual immorality with you. If it's thought, if it's deed, if it's speech. What does that mean? Does that mean that we cannot text in a certain way? Does that mean that we cannot, if I cannot talk to you in a certain way, I cannot dress in a certain way when I know this is a particular, if I put on a dress up and that reaches here, and I know for you, there's a joke that, oh my gosh, it sounds really stupid, but I had a conversation with a lady who's from one of those ministries. I studied in Maseno. It's really a rural area. But then for them, she was saying that she can't wear open-toed shoes because I think her boyfriend liked toes. So I was like, oh my goodness, this is the level. And so if I know for a fact that wearing a short skimpy dress for him would be sandals, would be something that would be blurring the boundaries for him, then that's a boundary for us. And so literally coming to a space of understanding that being a physical virgin is not just it. It's more on how you think, how you talk, how you interact with one another.
Human beings are special creatures. Toes. That's a first.
We're not shaming.
We're
not shaming.
It's special. Say it's special. So for my case is drawing the boundary. So for us, the first boundary was even the part of no kissing. Like we drew the boundary there because we knew we can't awaken love when it's not yet due. So that was we were very intentional about that. The other thing was because we knew our pastors will ask us those questions. So we didn't want to lie. So we had to keep, this is the part of you're accountable to people. You're not doing it because you fear people will, when your mentors ask you, you're doing it because you're intentional about it. For my wife, I was her first boyfriend. She's never dated before.
Oh my gosh, shout out to you.
So she was very, what's the word? Very cautious. So she was very cautious. So that helped me to understand, like I have to be, she's fragile. She's new into this. So I have to walk beyond my emotions, beyond my attraction, beyond my dopamine. I have to walk just the baby steps now to the final day. So for us was drawing the line. Where is the line? And acting on it. So that's and now having drawn the line now, that's physically, it was now fighting now the thought. How do you fight it? Because it's someone you're attracted to. So now the sexual purities are now working on the thought. And the thought is, what are you feeding each other? Like what Pastor Noel said, through text, how you're talking to each other. What are you feeding through what you're watching? What are you feeding around you through our friends and what are you feeding yourself? So that was very intentional. We were very intentional about that. And also it had to be even a prayer point to work, for God to work on our minds. Yeah.
Okay, so my question to both our married individuals. Do you feel like the whole abstinence part of it, because sex is a critical part of your relationship? True story. It's important. Let me say that. It's important. Do you feel like it affected your urgency of marriage in terms of like setting it up earlier or whatever?
No kidding. Pull up the question.
My question is the abstinence from sex, like remaining pure, basically. Do you feel like it affected the urgency of marriage, the marriage topic in your lives, you wanting to get married?
Get married faster.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
I feel like when we were having this conversation, I don't think it played such a big part in the urgency bit of it, because there's so many other factors at play in setting up when you get married. Because it doesn't necessarily mean that if Bato starts dating right now and the person that she wants to get married to, they're hot for each other, that they decide, okay, you know what, September 2023 is the limit that we can go. There's so many other factors in play that would dictate your completion of getting like to that union of being one. So maybe in terms of importance, I would say yes. But I wouldn't say that it was a factor in terms of determining how urgent we set up the marriage date.
I want to reply to you, but I don't want to influence his response.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll also concur with Noel. When you start dating and you want to get married, the good thing is, the beautiful thing is having people around you. Then you get to understand marriage is beyond sex. There are other factors which come into play. Are you compatible? Are you friends? Are you aligned? It's like where you're headed in your life. Do you see yourself heading in that direction? Or do you see a lot of conflict? You as a person, your character, is it okay, or is it good, or is it perfect for the other person? So there are so many other things. Even your faith. Do both your faiths, is a word like that, complement each other, or is your faith aspect and your partner's faith aspect contradicting or causing friction? Because those are things you'll have to work on. So do you see yourself working on that, or do you see yourself having to separate before you get married or living each other? So there are so many factors. Yes, there's the sex part, which will come later, but there are other factors which have to fall into place for you before you become.
But before you go, Ralph, I think that comes in retrospect after having conversations with people who are married and give you wisdom. But if it's people who are basically dating, that definitely is top on the list. The reason why, because this is something you have been told, sex is only for marriage. So the first thing on your mind is, okay, if this is the only way to make it legal, let's get married. But then with having conversations with other people who have already gone ahead and give you the wisdom of what is basically important, not just the sex aspect of it, then you come to make a better decision.
But do you not think that a prolonged engagement then just makes purity that much harder?
It does.
I've heard that temptation really heightens when you're engaged, after you're engaged, not even during dating. So I would agree with Ralph's statement that, like, I kind of think, like, I understand what you guys are saying and it all sounds great, but I think I can't see how sex is not a factor for when you're choosing what day you want to get married, like when the wedding is going to be. Yes, I understand there's factors that will affect the date that are practical, but like if we're talking about just emotional and like whatever, I don't see how, like, I don't know, it doesn't make sense in my head how that's not something that you consider as well.
Okay, I'll say, first of all, you've answered yourself. Yes, it's not the only factor. It's not the only factor. Yes, our flesh is not born again. It's not saved. Our flesh, we were given all these emotions and feelings, the biological aspect of a human being. They are there. Doesn't mean when you get born again, your flesh becomes a stone. There's still that. But when you get to understand, when you get people who have gone ahead of you, get to understand it's not only sex which will hold a marriage. Because you're getting into marriage, you're not getting into a sex union. You're getting into marriage.
I sound like a cult.
So now understanding the aspect of what marriage entails, it's when you realize actually when you're dating, yes, sex, like you've seen it, like you've won the Ballon d'Or. Like you're going for the Ballon d'Or. Though now when you get people who've gone ahead of you, so when they tell you the Ballon d'Or is there, yes, but there's this other aspect which make you even enjoying seeing that Ballon d'Or. Because now you enjoy the part of us being friends instead of, because you can't, if you're not mutually together and happy, sex becomes hard. If you're not happy, sex becomes hard. So it's, like I said, the difference between coming to a sex union versus a marriage, when you understand now, coming to a marriage, there are other aspects which play a part. Yeah.
If I speak, I'll be repeating what you all have said, bro. Like, real talk. I have nothing else to add. I hope you all are eating. This is healthy stuff.
Do you think the sexual immoralities like prostitution and pornography can effectively be done away with if men were able to step up and set the standard? What do you think?
Pardon?
Do you think sexual immoralities like prostitution and pornography can effectively be done away with if men were able to step up by setting the standard?
I definitely think so. I think if a lot of our culture has made it that purity is majority a women's conversation, as in women are the ones who are supposed to take extra, dress properly, take extra care to not, tempt the man and to do all these things. But it's very widely accepted that men can be promiscuous and it's permissible. It can be permissible. So I guess if men also stepped up and then even themselves advocating for purity, not just even in church, even just in society as a in general. So like music videos and things like that. If men stepped up to take responsibility for purity, then yeah, I feel like sexual immorality would reduce.
But you have to realize all these things involving females, none of them are being forced. The music videos, none of them are being forced to be there. The female prostitutes that are around, they're doing that by the obviously financial issues and everything, but they're there willingly, they're conscious of their decisions.
I don't
and you
think
can't remove responsibility from them being in that space.
That's not what we're doing. I don't think we're removing responsibility from the women. But the thing is also things like the person who holds the dollar is in control. A lot of the execs in this video, the music execs and the directors of the videos, a lot of these people are men. Yes, the women can say no if they wanted to, but then I think it should be collective responsibility. It shouldn't just be put on a specific gender. It should be both genders saying like, yo, we want a pure society. And yeah, like for prostitution, a majority of prostitution is the prostitutes are female, but it's the men paying them.
But the female are also there.
But if there was no
will,
willing buyer, there would be no selling.
so but they'd still need money. So that does, huh? Like what? Drugs? Because they look for cheap escapes. That's the truth. They look for cheap gets. That's the truth.
That's not necessarily
Others
true.
they'll be actually working, bro.
That's
These
not
people are
necessarily
not
true.
there by
If
mistake.
you've read, like a lot of people who are a lot of the females who are in the porn industry or like prostitutes or whatever, a lot of them are victims. A lot of them are victims of things that have happened to them or even society in general. It's not like, I don't think they enjoy like just knowing how much condemnation they get. I don't think it's a job you would willingly go for if you had other alternatives. I think they go for it because they don't think they have alternatives.
But my problem with that statement is you're calling them victims, yet they consciously made a decision to exist in that space. That's what I'm not about. You're there, bro, because you are there. Whatever reason it was, but you're there. You can
There's
get
also
out.
things like sex trafficking. You're aware of that, right?
What you talk about?
Women are pimped out or...
That's a different case. That's a totally different case. That one I agree with. But at the same time, sure, you might find them there for financial reasons, which is ground, like the foundation of it all will be like, I need some spread, nini. But you choose to go the route of starting an OnlyFans. Choose to go the route of sleeping with, because men are weak, bro. At the end of the day, that's fact. Men are weak. Like mentally, men are weak. That's true. That's why, like you said, like you all normally decide.
So Ralph, at this point, is this an entire confession that if
No, don't come for me. Why you attacking me, bro? Nah.
no,
But in real sense, what I'm just saying is, females get to choose. Like no, we're not looking about abuse side or whatever. That's different. But in a normal setting, females get to choose the extent of sexual involvement. We are the ones who get to choose relationship status and whatever. Whether we get into a fine. But sexual involvement, you all hold the keys to that door.
So being the devil's advocate in this scenario, would it mean then that if every woman chooses to do away with the free will, as you may put it, of being in prostitution or any such like activities, then would that mean that the men would be free to not be weak?
I'm trying to understand your statement. If females did away with?
with this thing that you choose to say that they are freely engaging in practices such as prostitution, would it mean that men would be a stronger?
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm not absolving men. That's not my point in this case. But the question was asking whether basically it's a man issue. And it's not.
I don't think.
Could we repeat the
Yeah,
question?
could you repeat the question?
Question is, do you think sexual immoralities like prostitution and pornography can be effectively done away with if men were able to step up by setting the standard?
Yes. Leadership is,
Done away with
yeah, because
fully.
if a society has great leadership, then that means setting culture is not that difficult if there's good leadership.
You're
They're
saying-
going to, like, I feel like sexual immorality would reduce. I don't know about the word done away with.
Okay.
It would definitely reduce if men did step up and take responsibility for purity.
Guess what? It would also reduce if females stepped up and also did the same thing.
I believe it's both
But women
genders.
have been
For me, it's-
taking responsibility for purity for a long time. But what men do is that they just find women who are not taking responsibility and then engage sex with them.
Can I say something?
Bruh.
I think it's both. I believe it's both genders to take responsibility. There's the point you said, if they felt they had other alternatives, they will now choose to be prostitutes. And yes, there's the part of them being victims. I'm talking about female prostitutes because there's also male prostitutes. So I'm talking the part of them being victims. So there are so many variables involved in this situation of them being victims. Maybe you are born into a family where your mom or your dad is a prostitute, or you are sold and you are a slave, or the part of now for you to make ends meet at the end of the day, it's for you to be a prostitute. So there are so many variables, and I feel they involve both genders. So it's actually an aspect of each gender taking responsibility and drawing the line of.
Can I give you an example of for example, Saudi Arabia, right, where women, for the most part, dress very, very modestly to the extent where they only show like their eyes. Sexual immorality is still a thing in places like that, where women have taken the necessary precaution to maybe make themselves pure. That's like it's still a thing because men will seek it out wherever they can get it.
So, for us to kill sexual immorality, prostitution, and masturbation, we need to know what's the genesis of all these.
Sin.
So that's the genesis of where in our society, our current society, where is the genesis of why do we still have these sexual immorality, prostitution, and masturbation? What's the genesis in this time and age? What causes man and woman to still submit to this sin?
What causes them to submit to
Yeah.
sin? To give in to sin?
So there was
I don't know. Like, I don't know what you guys can say, because at the end of the day, we've literally not said anything. Because we're saying this thing is bad, you shouldn't do it, it's a sin. Everyone knows that, but they still do it. So I don't know what different thing we can say to contribute to the conversation.
I think genuinely what the response to the question should be is just, yes, good leadership. If good leadership, from a Christian perspective, we believe a lot of the leadership conversations are led by the man. So if they take also responsibility, not to just educate even their daughters on purity, but also their sons on what it means to be pure, then society would change. We would see transformation. If we hold men to the same standards that we hold women when it comes to purity, it would change.
And I think just to leave it at a point of question for us to think about, when you talk about the genesis of it all, just to bring us back to that space in the Garden of Eden where when everything fell apart, when Eve was in a space of temptation by the snake, the the question that God asked Adam is, where were you when all this was happening? So I think leadership, the man.
I'll still stand by it. Both genders are responsible for it.
Is there any truth in a person dating multiple people, not at the same time, of course, being more ready and prepared for marriage than someone who has only dated one person?
Come again.
Is it true that if you date multiple people, you gain more experience than someone that has dated only one person?
I feel like if you date multiple people, you just become an expert in dating, not in marriage.
But at the same time, there's that knowledge of knowing what's supposed to be happening in a relationship. Cause sure, you all can argue about expectations and whatnot, but a female wants to be taken care of. You get? She doesn't want to come there and then start.
Not all females, though. So you're dating multiple people, but you're not dating the same person to gain experience with them.
True, but there's
If it's
something.
women are completely different. You could date like two
There's
and they're
some
completely
grounding.
different.
There's some grounding in it all, bruh. It's not like you're dating a lizard and then you're dating a crocodile. It's still the same species, bro. That's why I'm saying, like, there's even some confidence in how you operate when, like, you're in relationships or whatever. Compared to a guy who hasn't been in a relationship, a guy is questioning everything about how to operate in a relationship, how to treat my girl, how to do this. And maybe that time the female is like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. And then chances are you don't afford him the room to even learn. What do you expect, bro?
We might be having different definitions of what dating actually is. What is dating? Like, because isn't dating like almost like friendship, but it's like it's basically the same thing. Yes,
Exclusive.
you're getting to know each other with the intention of getting married. How many people do you have that intention with? Because I wouldn't understand why you would need to date multiple people. You know from the onset you're like if you want to be with a person or not. It doesn't take that long. You don't need to date multiple people to know that.
Because marriage is not, you don't get married because you have experience.
Social skills can be gained through other means that are not dating. And I get what you're saying. It's like you know how to treat a person from experience, but like social skills can be gotten from anywhere.
There's one scenario, someone who has dated multiple people for so long, and maybe now they decide to date Ralph and they get married. There's a scenario where they have a certain expectation because these guys used to treat me this kind of way. I was expecting such from you, compared to someone who has never dated and they're coming in like in a new experience, and now you define what your marriage will be like.
I have a
So
question.
there's that scenario.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Ralph. Would you happily marry someone who's been divorced multiple times because they have experience in marriage?
You all see what she's doing. So no. Yeah. Obviously, no.
Yeah, because then you just
I
don't
never said they
trust
knew how to
that-
settle. I never said that. I never said they knew how to settle. That was not my point. But yeah, basically, I'm just trying to, tell you guys in the mind of a dude. I'm not saying I represent all of them, but somehow, some of them. Because as we're taught, you're supposed to know how to take care of your woman. You're supposed to know how to move like this, move. There's a lot of you're supposed to know how to. You get? And yeah.
And you don't think you would know that just from talking to other men who've been married? Like they will tell you, they'll give you advice, they'll mentor you through it, as opposed to wanting to gain the experience from yourself.
I'm not lying. That is a solution. That's a solution. I'm not saying it's not. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, because I think bottom line is when you date multiple people, there's a lot of baggage that comes with that. Because every relationship you leave, you come out with something. No.
So should you have expectations?
There's nothing wrong with that. You're human. there's nothing wrong with having expectations, but there's also, you have to limit those expectations. You have to limit those expectations. Don't be have so many expectations, and when now you get married, you get frustrated because what you had, the cocoon you had put yourself in, you don't see it, so you become frustrated, and you don't become happy. So don't have too much expectations. These expectations, no more expectations. Be human, but don't have so many expectations.
Can I disagree with you? I think people should have expectations, but I think they should be said expectations. They should be communicated. And said expectations are what lead to disappointment.
Yeah, I remember we were told to write down during primary. We were told to write down your expectations.
Oh, Allah.
Yeah. She wrote her list. I wrote my
50.
list.
You wrote yours of 2.
Then you're told to share and talk about it.
Oh, and those are things you should attend. It's not like it happened. Whether me, I'm asking, I don't know. Like, if you're getting married, is it a thing that happens compulsory? Or it's you all to choose to go for premarital classes?
So now that's the reason why it's really advisable for you to go for premarital counseling, to have these conversations, because if not, then you'll end up a frustrated human, walking one path thinking that this other person knows the path that you're walking, because there's no telepathy in this entire marriage journey. But even when it comes to the conversation about having experience, there's a verse in the Bible that talks about submitting one to another, but then the wife is told submit to your own husband. And so it doesn't really matter whether you have gained so much experience. Each person is a different individual, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it will give you all the experience that you need to settle this particular marriage.
Is it expensive?
What?
Counseling. Premarital, bruh, cause
No.
Oh, now we know.
You're asking for the future.
Hey,
Asking for a friend.
Hey, I haven't added anything to my statement, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the best thing you can do for the both of you.
So basically, guys, the main memo: stop asking dating people for marriage advice. Talk to married couples, bro. If you're not going for counseling. So yeah.
Do soulmates exist? There's usually a line that says, "This is my person." So do you think soulmates exist, or it's just a pickup line?
I don't think soulmates exist, man. Soulmates do not exist. I think love is a choice, and you make it work. The long and short of it, honestly, love is a choice.
I think soulmates do exist, but I don't think they have to be romantic. Like, you could have a kindred spirit. You could have someone you get along with very well, and you just feel like, honestly, we were just meant to be friends, or we were meant to be like in the same space. But it doesn't necessarily have to be romantic.
Wants to hear.
It doesn't have to be romantic. No. Just in general, even friendships, or even like I don't know, family. Like, you could feel like, oh my, like our souls are tied together. But you don't. It's not necessarily romantic. It's just the love you feel for that person is so special that you wouldn't feel it for anybody else.
But you're the one who said marriage should be like a friendship thing. So no. So why wouldn't you
When
want to
when
get
in this
married
conversation
to
have I
your
said marriage is
soulmate, bro?
friendship?
Why wouldn't you want to get married to your soulmate?
But because sometimes maybe they're not the opposite sex.
So you.
Sometimes they could be I'm saying sometimes they could be or they could be family. Like and you're like weird. I feel like you're just my soulmate, but doesn't necessarily mean that. In the context that the question is being asked,
Context.
Then I don't know. It would be great if there were soulmates, but yeah, I don't know.
What is a soulmate? Let me just ask. Genuinely.
The person that was made for you.
Oh wow.
Specifically for Ralph.
They couldn't possibly be with anyone else. Like if your life was a soap opera,
Ralph.
you would get married at the end.
Yeah. Even when you are 50. when you meet each other when you are 50.
Whatever the scenario, this is the one person that you will end up with.
Well, good thing this is a third world country and we don't have the budget. So, yeah. I personally do think in the definition sense it might exist, like someone you really get along with, but I can't say it will just be one person. Yeah, like
Then they're not. But that's not in the.
so there's
that's
only
not-
one.
Yeah.
Like soulmate only means one person.
Yeah.
Really, just one person.
Yeah.
It can be someone else.
No.
Just okay.
Why do you want multiple?
No, because not like that, bro. But in real sense, like there is more than one person who ticks a lot of boxes in your book. So if that was by me, which I thought was the definition of a soulmate, then it exists, but it's not just one person. Because there are people you have to like build something with from, ground up, which is beautiful and all. But there are guys you come and like, bruh, we're already in level 8. Where have you been this
So I
whole
think
time?
so. I would think that was
another
what.
perspective. Allow me. I believe our God is a God of order, and logically, when we think about the ratio of men to women in the world, it's not equal. So if
more?
we have more women than
If
men.
that reflected in our life. Yeah, I'm sorry. Personal trauma. Continue.
Focus.
Yeah.
So if there was something like soulmate, means if a guy called John, got married to Bella, and Bella died, it means that John should die because his soulmate has died, or John should not marry again. So having that context, understanding that, it means that the aspect of soulmate is not practical and doesn't make sense. So that's why even in the Bible, when a spouse dies, you are allowed to remarry. So doesn't mean now because of my soulmate does no longer exist, I should, because we were already married, I should also go, or I should not marry.
And if one person married someone else's soulmate, like they have the potential of like ruining,
Yeah,
like
it means
for
you've
almost
messed up
everybody.
the world. Yeah.
How would you advise someone who has had soul ties from previous sexual partners?
What are soul ties?
From my understanding, is sleeping together with someone else, and you'll normally say that's when you get soul ties. So yes, that's that is soul ties.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, from that perspective.
You're tied to someone else because you all had sexual relations.
Yes.
Yeah, because when you sleep with someone, you all become one. It's even biblical. Even when I don't like the example the Bible gives. Even when you sleep with a prostitute, you and the prostitute become one. Okay,
Yeah,
it's
you're
more of a
joined
warning.
together with
You're
her,
joined
yeah.
together. It's more of a warning. So having slept with so many people, you become one with so many people.
I think there's freedom in Christ, right? Like that would be my advice. Like who the Son sets free is free indeed. So the only freedom can come in Christ. There's redemption for everybody. Just because someone messed up once or multiple times, the blood of Jesus is enough to cover every form of sin and deliver and make free. So I think in Christ, anyone can be made whole.
The media today is full of sexually suggestive and explicit content. How does a person pursuing sexual purity avoid such pitfalls?
Sorry, please repeat the question.
The media today is full of sexually suggestive and explicit content. How does a person pursuing sexual purity avoid such pitfalls?
Well, I think it comes back to the conversation about the boundaries, and I don't think the boundaries that we set are necessarily for people who are in a relationship, but even as an individual, so that you know exactly the content that you're consuming, the spaces where you are throwing yourself into, because if you know for a fact this is a show that has been rated, what's the worst rating? R-rated, I don't know.
I
And
also don't know.
and you, wow, Ralph, do you care to explain?
Ubla Angles.
Yeah, so if that's something that you have already spotted as something that stands out as a stern warning, and you're trying to walk in purity, then it would beat sense if you're saying, okay, you know what, I'm hardcore, nothing can beat me. Let me walk in and do the necessary, because I know, you know what, the blood of Jesus covers me.
Hallelujah.
I get in that sense of not tempting your vulnerability, to test your levels. But at the same time, I don't think you can actively avoid it. That's a sad state of things nowadays. You might be on a website and something just pops up, bro. Like, yeah, it's for me, I just be like, don't treat it like something you shouldn't talk about, because at the same time, I need to arm you to be defensive. You get? There's no you can be ready if you don't really know what to expect. So, yeah, in this day and age, I don't think you can fully avoid clashing with it.
Yeah, and maybe the motive shouldn't be trying to avoid sexually suggestive things. I think the motive that we should all live for is to pursue Christ. And when we do, when that's our focus, everything else, the Holy Spirit will help you navigate everything else. Because, like Ralph said, he's right. It's very difficult to avoid all this content, especially on social media.
But there's also, I agree, there's also a way to minimize it, to help thyself. Because what Noella said, some can be a movie or a series. You are sure for sure this series, no. You can actually stop watching that series. There are millions of series that are out there. You can watch something else. You don't have to finish it. Even from because it's the media and a lot of social media applications and websites, they are, what do we call, from a technical point of view, they are actually you can filter what comes to your wall. There's options to filter, so you can do that just to minimize what pops up, because you become what you consume, garbage in, garbage out. So we can minimize what we are consuming. I believe that.
Yeah, I think avoid all forms of sexual stimulation, be it visual, whether you hear it, whether you, whatever.
That's what I'm disagreeing with. You can't avoid all forms of it.
I mean, that stimulate you. You can minimize. I guess that's what you say.
I think that the point that's being thrown across is, in as much as you cannot cancel all access to you, is that being careful that even if you think that I will come across it, but not to be thumb-chesting yourself, saying that this can't get to me. Making the conscious decisions that once you see it, change your direction.
Do you wish you had more experience? That is for the married guys. Do you wish you had more experience? And for the unmarried ones, would you want to have more experience when it comes to either marriage or the sexual part?
I don't think I would like to have more experience, because I'm enjoying the journey of learning together. I am thoroughly enjoying the journey of learning together. So we're gaining experience together. Does that make sense?
Is it experience the marriage or experience something else within marriage?
Do you wish you had sexual experience?
Oh,
No, it's both. It's both. There's a sexual part and there's also the marriage part. Yeah, it's not only sexual. That's not a question. Yeah. So no, Amma, it's just sexually based.
Like, I don't understand what more experience in marriage is.
More experience in dealing with women.
With what? With what?
Dealing with women. Can't trigger me like that. And
But maybe. Or sexual.
Sexual,
my
yeah, I
bad.
think, yeah.
My bad.
one thing I'm excited about being married now, it's now learning sex, because it's a new subject to you. So I'm learning. So it's a
Subject.
one page. It's opening one page, the next page each day. So I've not read the whole book.
I could ask so many
Man,
questions,
this
but I
is
don't.
It's poetry, guys. It's like
Yeah, I could ask so many questions. Like, cause like I'm so curious. What does learning look like? Like, does it like? I'm like, what does that mean?
That's the same question I had when I was talking to my mentors. sex will be different every time. Over the years, sex will be special. You'll have better. That's the word. They will have better sex over the years. So I remember there was it was Pastor M who was sharing, was saying there's a time he was laughing with his wife, asking themselves what they were doing when they were younger.
No one wants that knowledge from
They were
Pastor
laughing
M.
at each other like we don't know what we were doing. We were rookies, kind of thing. So for me it's not been long. I think Pastor Noel will share her experience, but the few months I'm actually trying to, it's actually blooming into me. Let me use those words. I won't get into details. It's blooming.
This is my question. Do you what does learning mean? Like, do you read books? Like, do you know? Like, that's my question. Like, I don't understand what learning means, because if neither of you are entering the situation knowing anything, which is like one of the scariest things that every time I think of marriage, I'm just like, no.
Do you seek tips?
Yeah, because like, how do you know? I was like, how do you know what to do?
I don't know whether we are crossing boundaries here, but hey, you know what? So the thing is, when I speak about learning, is that there are particular things that he likes. There are particular things that I like. Learning is not coming with the head knowledge that what I had practiced premarital is what exactly will work in this particular marriage. But it's learning each other that if I'm touching you in a particular way, that works for you. And you see, it comes day by day because we are constantly communicating. We probably started when the only way we can do this is in the bedroom, in the bed, nowhere else. Learning means you're shifting. Okay, this is too much information.
Yeah, we get the idea.
You get the
We
idea.
get the idea.
How are you getting the idea?
See, I was speaking for you.
So like I said, I'm trying to avoid to get into details, but learning. Yeah, let me use
And also unlearning things that you thought would be
this is how it should be done. This is
Yeah.
how
based off of probably movies that you've watched, and you imagine, oh my goodness, when he busts the door open, there we are. Things like that.
yeah. And I don't have to come with a costume kind of thing, like a fireman costume. No, it doesn't work that way, or a superhero costume. Those are just fantasies, but you realize it's actually things you've heard or read or seen. So the communicating part, it's actually very key in a marriage context.
So, but that still doesn't answer my question. Do you ever seek for external tips? Like, that are not just, yes, I understand what you mean by learning each other, but then...
Do you ask other people?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ask other people, I don't know.
Yes.
But like, do you like...
Yes. we
And
do.
so if you're learning from other materials, I'd be very curious to know like which material is inappropriate, that's not necessarily like explicit, or that could lead someone into like a rabbit hole of now wanting to watch like porn or stuff like that.
Okay. For our case, we are learning from other couples.
Just weird conversation.
Yeah, like you can. It's a weird conversation, especially with your mentors. For them, I think the first time I was very shocked when my mentor was like advising me. Use that word, advising me on how. Yes. Yeah, I'm learning from our mentors. So there are questions you can ask. Material, no, not yet incorporated materials.
I think basic is even Song of Solomon itself. When it gives you a breakdown, it's quite an intense reading if you choose to look at it, not from the point of seeking Christ in that scripture, but using it in the form of learning that it's not necessarily Kama Sutra kind of vibes, but also there's books that have been written, Christian books, about how to learn, because it also boils down to things like biology. Yes, like that. There are books that actually teach you the different parts of the body and how to make sure that there is pleasure and things like that. That stem from a Christian perspective and not necessarily freestyling and googling just any form of
But I also
content.
feel, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, like some of it should be left to just discovery. Plain old, like you're not there to
That's
get
exactly
the whole
what
mouth.
learning bit is. The learning
yeah,
each
discovery
other.
between me
Yes.
and my significant other,
Yes.
not, you know,
Yes,
having a
that's the
whole
beauty
WhatsApp
about
group.
it.
Like, bro. Yeah, let me stop myself. But yeah, basically, like some element of mystery that you owe to, you know, each other to explore than getting the whole cheat code from whatever. Should be your own thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have more questions?
I feel like she does.
Yeah. Next time, season 2.